Hello, everyone. We are here with another Fireside Chat at Careful Security. Joining us today is Chris Larcade with Synergy Advisory. Hello, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Alyssa. Hello, Sammy. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's jump right in. Will you tell us what you do and also what you're working on just today on this
Sure.
Tuesday?
It's fine. I'm over on the West Coast. I'm over on the East Coast. It's rainy and gross, so we'll call it a day nevertheless. It's good to be with you. Synergy Advisory, to sum it up, when most CEOs see growth and sales stagnating, they assume it's a sales problem, right? It's a common mistake to make because for most organizations, a sales team is the highest paid group within that organization for the most part. So you're going to go there. However, with my 25 plus years running sales organizations for Fortune 100 companies, I can say that while the sales function may be part of the issue, high functioning sales is a process that can be taught. So I feel that the crux of the problem tends to lie in marketing. And when the sales function does not have a compelling and clearly articulated value proposition or USP, the job of sales to get a new customer, to retain that customer, and to increase that customer's lifespan can be greatly diminished. So what I do is I look to bring my team in and we address those three buckets. We address sales, we address marketing, and we address customer retention. We look to help a business scale up if they're looking to make an exit or just go to the next level where maybe they've been struggling over a period of time.
Wow. That's great, Chris. Yeah, we should probably make this a live coaching from you. We are good with customer retention, but our marketing is all over the place and we don't have a defined sales program. And when I mean marketing is all over the place, it's like we are doing so many things. We're just focusing on all the different services that we offer, and we are not simplifying it, and we don't have an elevator pitch. And we work from home, so we don't use elevators that much anyway.
True. I think the elevator pitch actually goes back to selling elevators, but that's a different story. Well, what is your value prop behind you? What does that say? Well, we help people see their IT find their blind spots. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I understand that that's basically your rough value proposition or your value proposition. So where you may be struggling with a process, and look, processes can be implemented as part of what we do, but I'm going to challenge you a bit further on your marketing and say, what are you bringing to the market, Sammy, that's unique? What is your unique selling proposition? Because that's going to help you differentiate from people in your space. Look, there are many people who work in sales and marketing and consulting. I work with my unique value proposition, my unique selling proposition to help Synergy stand above the rest. And what I challenge you to think about is, what are your 2 or 3 unique selling propositions for your firm? Once you build that coming off your value proposition, I would then challenge you a bit further to develop an ideal client profile or an ICP. Build those building blocks and then put those within your sales funnel and pipeline, and then you'll begin to probably move forward a bit more.
Got it. So since we are doing a live coaching session and people will see your genius at work, maybe Chris can give us some background on your past lives with the studios before, you help us get out of the water.
Sure. Let's see. I'll give you my very first job before I get you the more interesting jobs. My very first job was working for a volunteer organization where I learned to work a matched pair of draft horses and learn how to plow fields as part of like this tourist exhibition. That was my first job, which then eventually parlayed into a job with a major media company. We'll keep them off the record for the time being, but you can find them out very quickly through my LinkedIn profile, where I worked and developed actually with 3 media companies, 3 separate media sales teams, one ending with one of the major media companies in the world, where I developed their political sales vertical and sales team. And my group handled all linear and digital political sales for that organization.
Wow. Do you have a creative side to you as well?
A site for me? No, I don't have a creative side. I am a business. I like to think I have a creative side. Like all good business guys, my background is English literature, so I can be creative as needed. I think actually creativity is incredibly important, but I actually do not make copy. I have people within my group that will handle email marketing and email scripts and building that entire component of the marketing system and funnel. But unlike, I think what a lot of people with sales backgrounds come into, or in my case, revenue backgrounds, that they can handle everything. What I learned early on is you put the best person in the best seat, and that's how you get the job done correctly. So I bring people in to handle the creative part.
Oh, cool. Alisa is a creative person. Alisa, tell us about what is creativity.
What is creativity? Sometimes it's getting out of your own head. That's what creativity is. So, Chris, would you tell us a valuable lesson or a nugget of wisdom that you've learned through your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have one that I've carried with me even from my very, very early days in advertising. I was a very young leader. I was 26 when I first started my first company, and I'm just 27 now, as you can tell. Yeah, just because something has been done a certain way for a long period of time, it does not make it the right way to do it. In fact, it could make it inherently the wrong way to do it. We need to challenge ourselves. I'm a big believer in positivity. I am not a negative sort of person. However, negative experiences drive us forward and help us learn and help us grow. If we keep on doing the same thing again and again and again with no resistance, that's great, but what are we missing? So part of my strategy has always been see what's been going on for a long time. If it works, great. Why does it work? And you might need to change it. And don't be afraid of that change. Kind of, I occasionally come across, I think EOS is a fantastic system. I'm not an implementer, but they have a fantastic saying in that world. It's let go of the vine. And I believe you need to let go of the vine sometimes.
You need to what, Chris? What was the term you used?
Sorry, let go of the vine, meaning, you need to trust that think of the old exercise. We all did it back in the day. You lean forward, someone's going to catch you. You have to trust that we're going to move forward, right? Let go of the vine. You have to let go of where you are to move over to the next spot. To grab onto that new vine, you need to let go of the old vine you're holding on to.
Right. It's very similar to security, because we are always challenging the status quo. Because when we go to an IT team or a dev team or anybody, the common response is we've always done it this way, which doesn't make it secure. You may have, that, we are in the same business of challenging. And unfortunately, sometimes people don't like us for that, but that's our job, Yeah.
Savvy, that must be really hard from your point of view sometimes. I look at it, changing sales and marketing and that whole process it can be challenging working within a firm that way. But you're really getting into areas that I think can be very sensitive. So I'm curious how you manage that. How do you manage people who are afraid of the change? I could sit here and say, let go of the vine. For you, that's got to be a scary proposition. How do you handle that?
Oh, thank you for putting me on the spot. So I have Elon in the team. Everybody loves Elon. So whenever it's a tough situation, I put Elon in the front. But earlier security was looked as an impediment. So security is always the team who says no. But now that focus has shifted to where security is becoming a business enabler. So we are not telling business you cannot do that. We are just giving them solutions on where they can do their stuff, yet remain secure.
Interesting. Okay, I appreciate that positioning. I think you have some good marketing material in there too as well, but we can talk about that offline.
Yeah, Alisa, what's your next question?
Well, then, since we're talking about cybersecurity, Chris, do you have any personal or business cybersecurity concerns?
Personally, for me, it's what do you see? The Synergy general client base is between 10 to 65, 75 million, right? What you're working in the same space. I'm curious, Sammy, what do you see? What is a blind spot that you see, let's say in a professional service organization that you say, my God, I can't believe this is missed, or they really need to check on that? Because I I know enough to know I know nothing in the space. My computer experience goes back to Fortran and Pascal and BASIC. Again, I'm quite young.
Right. Right.
But what do you see, Sammy? What can I keep an eye out for, and what can I listen for sitting when I go into engagement that should be an alert for me to call Sammy?
Right. So we'll tell, just like it's a very simple explanation for this.
Okay.
So I cannot see my own eyelashes.
Okay.
And IT and internal teams are busy fighting day to day. They're just kind of so much in the thick of things that they are missing that external perspective. I was with a friend and they were like, I give so many good advice to other people. Sometimes I should apply that own advice myself. So that's what we see, because we just have a different filter. Our job is not to make things constantly work as they should, but our job is to find the unknown. So and then once you put that filter on, you always see things that are not right. And I feel like, internally as a person, I was always the type who challenged the status quo, who was, in a way not accepting. I also inherently have a sense of justice. Sometimes people say, vendors would say, oh, you buy my solution and everything will be golden and rainbows. But, kind of challenging that, we do a fine, what is that called? Like dance and, the dance, fine dance. Like we have to be, huh?
Like a tango. I always picture sometimes a client engagement could be like a tango, very defined, very moved. But keep on going, please. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, we have to learn how to challenge the status quo without making people upset. That's the balance. But we have done, to share a personal story, we've done an assessment for an organization who did an assessment before with another company, and they were like, pat on the back, your security is top notch, it's better than a bank. And then they engaged us and we created a huge report of everything that they're missing. And so, we just train to look that way.
I think you and I, we sound as if we approach things from a very similar approach, a perspective, right? You challenge the status quo, and as I said earlier, just because it's been done a certain way doesn't mean it's right. I'm going to make an assumption that in your space, that sentence is probably even more true, right? You have to stay on top of it. You need, someone like you to come in and your team to come in to really stay ahead of the curve, because again, my knowledge is small, but no one's too small to be broken into, hacked, and everything else that goes with it, to have everything fall apart. But that overall infrastructure has to maintain, I would think, relatively state of the art, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely. So our challenge is, how do we make change without disrupting business?
And for me, sometimes I don't want to disrupt the business, but I do look to disrupt the systems. At the end of the day, if they're bringing the synergy team in, there's inherently a problem. So, like you, I just don't give them the list of, put in a playbook and do this, and we're going to do a couple of variants on email cadence. We're going to work here and there, and it'll be great. Sometimes you really need to rip it apart, and that can be a process. But I don't know about you, but my approach has always been, my job is never to work perpetually with a client. My job is to work myself out of my job and to leave the client in a better situation than when I came in. Our space is perpetually cluttered with a lot of binders on our client shelves, and I don't ever want to be a binder. I want to be someone on speed dial, and that's how I approach everything.
Chris, fascinating. Could you share a story without giving out too many details, like a kind of before and after story that's could be inspiring to someone like us or our viewers?
Sure, I can. In a rough case study, pulling out various names, it was a mid-sized organization with a highly, actually, you would have been great because their tech stack and their hardware was horrific. They were dysfunctional. They were 20 years in. It was a family business. They had way too heavily administrative oversight. They really needed a complete overhaul on their sales and revenue function. Their marketing was horrific, and they had no idea what the customer life cycle was. And quite frankly, the business was probably floundering, and the owner wanted to hand it off to his daughter in this case. And it was a train wreck. It took about 18 months to turn around. And I actually get chucked up a little bit when I think about it. The best thing was towards the end, the gentleman's daughter, and it was a lot of work and it was a lot of screaming, but she came to me and she said, "Thank you very much because I have my dad back." And I really enjoyed hearing that. But we still stay in touch. They're still a coaching client of mine. It started out incredibly anachronistic between me and the daughter. She was the sales lead. I had to revamp a lot within there and really work them through bit by bit, but it remains one of my most rewarding functions simply because of that. They had to be completely redone. It was a 50-year-old company, basically. But it was, when it was done, and going back to what I said earlier, they thought it was a sales function. The widget that they sold was a institutional long-term widget, and the widget just needed to be defined differently. They were defining their value prop on their unique selling propositions from 20 years ago, and it was not translating in today's marketplace, and they were way off on what their ideal client profile should have been. And once we brought all that together, I got that copy. So I know that's pretty vague, but it's really it's a really close story to my heart.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And you kind of brought up something. We actually have a question from LinkedIn. And Chris, in the beginning, you were talking about how people think CEOs think sales is the problem when it actually comes to revenue stagnation and maybe marketing, et cetera. So Sammy, the question is, what is the decision maker being told when you found a cybersecurity solution that is usually untrue? So kind of relating to, they think it's one thing, but you're telling them, no, it's actually this. Do you have an example of that?
They are being told, well, I feel like anything can be the solution, right? But what people do, they go halfway and then they drop the ball. So if it is simple example, your tool can give you, let's say, multi-factor authentication. You secure 99 out of 100 accounts, but you don't secure one account. That's the one the hacker uses to exploit the system. So we focus very much on the capability of the solution, but we don't focus on the implementation of the solution.
Yeah, it's not just a quick fix. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is no magic fix. It's hard work, it's discipline, Chris, is there an analogy like that in sales as well?
No, can you repeat the question again in terms of how you phrase that, Alyssa?
It was basically it was, what is a decision maker being told when they find a cybersecurity solution that is usually untrue? Like how you said CEOs think it's sales, but it was really marketing that they need to work on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, thank you. Generally, it's if you make more calls, we're going to get more sales. That's almost 101. No, if you make more calls with absolutely none of that supporting marketing that's going in there, do you understand what your value prop is? Can you communicate the value prop to the market? Do you understand what your ideal client profile is? And do you understand what your unique selling propositions are? You can make 50,000 phone calls and not understanding all that, you are going to be spinning your wheels. However, if you make 1,000 phone calls, understanding those elements, there's going to be traction moving forward.
Yeah, it's almost, yeah.
It's not always a numbers game. It's part of it. BDR work is definitely an important part of the process. It's part of what my team does. But we don't get to that until we know how we're going into the market. Thank you.
I was just going to say a very rudimentary analogy or metaphor for it would be you knock on 100 apartment doors, but you're selling, a pool. Like they don't have a backyard, so you don't know your customer, and it's a waste of time.
Absolutely, positively.
That makes
Right.
a lot of sense. Well, thank you, Sammy. I don't know if you have any other questions for Chris.
No, I think this conversation kind of sparked something in me, Chris. I was like, have you heard the story, The Emperor Has No Clothes? The little boy points out.
Sure.
So sometimes that's our job. And also, it's like a bitter medicine. It tastes bitter. I think both of us do that. But then at the end, you know, it's good for you.
You 100%, and you said it well. I use The Emperor Has No Clothes all the time because it's what we do. It's very important for what all of us do is that we tell the emperor when they have no clothes on. Otherwise, you know, what we do has no actual traction and purpose in the law.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I feel like your background is the perfect theme for this meeting. It's been, you can't see the forest for the trees. You both, Sammy and Chris, really point that out. So hopefully people can let go of the vine and trust both of you to do your jobs that you're experts at. So thank you so much to both of you for taking the time, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you, Sammy, and thank you, Elon, as well, too.
Thank you, Elon. Unsung hero. Thank you for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.